When you hear this.
They've got him again!
And this.
Back to Chuck, he scores!
And this.
Oh boy, what a move by Embiid!
You think of us. We are sports. 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Tuesday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, live on YouTube at 97.3 ESPN. A plethora of ways for you to join the conversation. Listening on your radio, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. You are listening on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. You can DM the show. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. And of course, we are live on YouTube, where you can join the conversation on the stream at 973 ESPN. Coming up tonight at 6:20, we'll talk more NFL with Geoff Ulbrich from DraftKings. He's one of their NFL analysts. We'll talk with him about the NFL playoffs, the super wild card weekend, as we have been reminded multiple times by guests, Sal Palantonio, anyway, multiple times here on 97.3 ESPN. So we have a lot of stuff to get to with the football stuff. More people getting fired. Joe Judge fired today. We'll touch on that as well. And, of course, the latest news from around the NFL. You know, as the Eagles prepare for their game on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN, after watching the national championship game last night, which you also heard on 97.3 ESPN, I think that it doesn't get looked at enough that one game is not always going to be the measuring stick for the next matchup between two teams. Last night was a perfect example of, if you make the right adjustments, if you go out and handle your business correctly, you can avenge a loss pretty easily. Now, I'm not saying it was easy for Georgia to beat Alabama last night, but making those types of adjustments should always be easy. Because when you have a situation where you say, okay, I lost to this team before, so I obviously lost for a reason. So making the adjustments should always be easy. Now, applying them is always going to be difficult and has varied success rates. But as you saw last night, Georgia looked at Alabama and said, this is why we lost before. We lost before because we tried to stop Bryce Young. Now we're going to just stop all of his teammates. They stopped trying to play as individuals and they played as a unit. I mean, for goodness sake, the Kobe Dean, who is the best linebacker in all of college football, basically turned into a decoy. He became one of those guys that you turn around and you were like, he didn't have a huge impact on the game, but he was the one directing traffic so everyone else could have a huge impact on the game. So when we talk about the Eagles playing the Bucs this Sunday at 1 o'clock, you're talking about an Eagles team and a Bucs team that are not the same the first time they played. They are not the same units. They are not the same anything. So you have to consider this. The Eagles can beat the Bucs. Will they beat the Bucs? I'm not going to go jump off on that train yet, but I'm not willing to dismiss the Eagles out of hand. Earlier on the Sports Bash, Mike Gill gave his ranking of teams that he has the most confidence in. And the two teams he has the least confidence in are the Steelers and the Raiders. Now, my reason for having less confidence might not be the same as someone else's, but I understand the reasoning completely, because What do the Eagles have that the Raiders and the Steelers don't? The Eagles are elite at one thing, and they can beat anybody at one thing. The Eagles can run the ball better than anybody else in the league right now. Anybody. There is nothing that the Steelers or Raiders do at this point in the year that is elite. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the Eagles are going to run away from the Bucs or anything like that. But as we saw last night in the national championship game, we learned very clearly that you can make adjustments and you can be a team that beats the guy that beat you up last time. Folks, there's always hope. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Text board is open as always, 609-403-0973. Of course, we will dig deeper into NFL playoff weekend with Geoff Ulbrich coming up at 6:20 p.m. tonight. More firings today. Joe Judge fired by the Giants. And I can't let this, just go past me and not touch on it. This is now the third NFL team that has both a head coach and GM opening simultaneously. And the three teams that this is going on with have these openings for completely different reasons. The Giants, the Bears, and the Vikings are not all in the same boat. The Giants had to clean house because the ego of both of their head coach and their GM was just too much. I think Joe Judge literally thought that he was the smartest guy in the room everywhere he went. And as Philadelphia Eagle fans know, Chip Kelly proved that being the smartest guy in the room doesn't mean you're ever going to win skedaddle in the NFL. Ever, ever, ever. I think Joe Judge falls under the category of pride comes before a fall. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Judge walked into that meeting with Giants ownership with a chance to keep his job and he imploded because his ego is the size of the Grand Canyon. You look at the GM. David Gettleman said he drafted Daniel Jones because the first time he ever saw him, he fell in love. I mean, that's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with GMs who fall in love with quarterbacks and head coaches who think that they're smarter and better than everybody else on planet Earth. Listen, you know why Belichick and Nick Saban are allowed to say and do what they do? Because they have the resume to back it up. Joe Judge is just a guy, to steal a phrase from Glenn EHD. There's nothing special about Joe Judge. Now, he may go on to have a nice coaching career somewhere else because maybe the Giants organization just that messed up. But if I'm an NFL team trying to hire right now, if I was asked by the Bears or the Vikings or the Broncos or the Jags or whatever the Raiders get out of the postseason, if they asked me to consult them on their head coaching search, Brian Flores is way higher on my list of guys than Joe Judge. And that is because Brian Flores is a guy who players love and respect. There are Dolphins players in the last 24 hours who have all come out and said on and off the record that they wanted Brian Flores to be their coach. They loved Brian Flores as their coach. They appreciated Brian Flores as their coach. Everything added up to Brian Flores should be the coach of the Dolphins, except that the owner took the side of his incompetent GM in that situation. Brian Flores will get another opportunity, and he will win. I can't promise you that with Joe Judge. Joe Judge, I don't know what he's like outside of everything I've heard and read. Everything I've heard and read sounds like an egotistical maniac. And Daniel Jones can say all he wants. Oh, I've learned so much from Joe Judge. You know what? You can learn a lot from people who treat you like garbage, okay? Listen, we've all had that teacher when we were in high school. We've all had that teacher that we looked at and we were like, you know, I really wish that teacher was a little nicer, but you still learn things in their class. It wasn't all for naught. So I'm not going to sit here and act like the Giants are anything except for a franchise in need of a reset button. Bears need both positions filled because of this reason. The GM got the quarterback before he got the head coach. And because of that, the quarterback and the head coach were never on the same timetable when it came to Trubisky and Nagy. Now, they got the 2 postseason appearances with Nagy and Trubisky, but they didn't have a lot of success in the postseason. Thanks to the double doink and then Nickelodeon. I'm kidding about Nickelodeon, but obviously the Saints shellacked them in that postseason game. And the only entertaining thing about that game was it was on Nickelodeon. The Vikings are in a very strange situation because they had a GM that was respected around the league. They had a head coach that was respected around the league, but the players didn't like the head coach. The players are basically inferring that he was a tyrant. So you look at the Vikings, that's about trying to find a better culture guy. I mean, maybe Brian Flores is the guy who needs to go to Minnesota at this point. But the GM position in a lot of these places is going to dictate who they hire as a head coach. Because you look at a lot of the guys who are getting interviews, right? Guys from organizations like the Chiefs and the Bills and the 49ers. And look at who the coaching requests are going out to. Guys like the coordinators down in Tampa, Todd Bowles, Byron Leftwich, the coordinators in Buffalo, Dable and Frazier, right? There's a lot of guys who they are on teams that have had a specific amount of success. And I think that's going to be a factor in who gets hired and who doesn't this offseason. I think we're going to learn very quickly that these organizations that need both the GM and the head coach filled are also organizations that don't just need the positions filled, but they need the positions filled by people who are going to change the culture. Because the Giants have become a joke. The Giants are one of the staple franchises of the NFL. They were one of the standard bearers. They were one of the organizations that you looked at and said, that's how you run a football team. And now they're the complete opposite. The Bears are a franchise that pretty much just lost their way. They had stability for a long time with Lovie Smith. And now they're just going in and out of coaches, in and out of coaches. And the Vikings are an organization that had stability, but the stability only got them so far. They got to an NFC championship game with Case Keenum. And he was, the 4th best quarterback that they have had in Mike Zimmer's tenure there? It's a strange situation. Minnesota needs to change the culture in their coaching staff, and they needed a fresh new voice. The other teams that need coach openings, I don't know what the Dolphins want. I think the Dolphins just want a yes man for Chris Greer and for Stephen Ross. The Broncos are going to try to hire the best man possible. I think George Patton is going to show that he is going to turn the Broncos back into a playoff contender very quickly. I think it starts with whoever they hire as head coach. The Jags need to find a guy who's not just going to help maximize Trevor Lawrence, but they need to find a guy who is going to have a good coaching staff to complement the rest of the organization. And the Raiders, it really depends what happens in the postseason. Rich Bisaccia is not brought back. They need to bring in a guy who is going to keep the train going. You made the playoffs without Gruden, with the interim coach. Now you got to keep the train going. You got to keep the ball rolling down the hill. You can't hit the brakes and try to hit a reset button now. This team has talent. Don't waste it. All right, coming up next, more NFL talk. NFL Super Wild Card Weekend coming up. We'll talk about it with Geoff Ulbrich from DraftKings on the other side right here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live on YouTube at 973 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig, and this is Game Night.
This is the radio home for Eagles playoff football. It's the NFC Wild Card Round this Sunday with the Eagles in Tampa to face Brady and the Bucs.
Brady back. He lets it go. He is going deep, and it is intercepted. And it is picked off by Harris.
Pre-game coverage begins at noon. Maryland Mike had the call starting at 1. This is where Eagles playoff football happens. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
Save thousands at Matt Blatt Kia. Get out of your old trade today, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Go to mattblattkianj.com for more details. That's mattblattkianj.com.
It's gotta be a
Matt Blatt Kia.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here in the Matt Blatt Kia studios here on 97.3 ESPN. NFL Super Wild Card Weekend. I think it's kind of funny that everyone keeps correcting people and saying, no, it's Super Wild Card Weekend. It's like, all right, guys, relax. I love football just as much as you do, all right? If I don't call it super once or twice, it's not the end of the world, all right? Talk more about the NFL right now as the college football season for me is done, so all my focus now goes to the NFL. Joining us right now over on YouTube at 973 ESPN on the StreamYard link. Joining us right now is Geoff Ulbrich from DraftKings to talk more about the NFL and the Super Wild Card Weekend. Geoff, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me on. I mean, the super wild card thing is something I'm still adjusting to. I just realized we had a game Monday night like yesterday. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I think that's the best part of this whole thing. 3 days of football. So
yeah, you can't complain about the 3 days of football. I just think it's funny. People just like, we've literally had guests come on other shows and be like, remember guys, it's super wild card. And just like, all right, I get it. All right. It's Tuesday. All right. Let me get through the week here. All right. So, Geoff, of all the playoff matchups this weekend, you mentioned that it's Saturday through Monday.
Yep.
Right now, as of Tuesday, is there one that really gets you the most excited right now?
Man, I mean, I think, like there's obviously two different aspects we're talking about here, from like a watchability standpoint and just like a drama standpoint, and then just from a betting standpoint. I think from the more just the game I want to see the most, it's San Francisco, Dallas. I mean, I just think that, whoever we knew, like once San Francisco got in, whoever drew them, it is tough, man. Like this San Francisco offense is so tough to keep down. And we saw it last week. I mean, you just cannot limit this team, it feels like, to less than like 23, 24 points right now. And I think that it's going to create a really, really interesting factor with Dallas at home, who's also very good at scoring at home too. And they've got a San Francisco secondary that thin, not good. And now they've got like some really high-end wide receivers to guard against. So I think from a watchability standpoint, that's the game I want to see. From a betting standpoint, though, I'll be dead honest, man. I am very, very interested in the Philadelphia Eagles this week. And I'm not just saying that because it's a Philadelphia, thing here, but I'm very interested in the Eagles. I think that you've got so many factors going into this game that a lot of the betting market is not taking into account. You've got the Buccaneers without two of their top wide receivers. They haven't really played a real team since getting shut out by the Saints. You've got the Eagles coming off basically a bye week. And, this is the second time we're going to see Jalen Hurts against this team too. I'm really into the Eagles at plus 8.5. And with all the money going on the Bucs right now, I think you're going to see this line potentially even get bigger.
Right now, the Eagles are 8.5-point underdogs I'm seeing over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And I got to wonder, because I mentioned before you came on, Geoff, for the Eagles, to stick on them for a moment, we just saw last night in the college football national championship game, a team got completely smashed in the first matchup. The second matchup, they took control and won the game. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to beat Tom Brady, but I'm just saying this game is probably going to be more aesthetically close than the first one was when the Bucs just took their foot off the gas and went on cruise control in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this game as this way. It's got like the most variance attached to it, if that kind of makes sense. We know Jalen Hurts is a very up and down quarterback. He can turn the ball over like 3 times, but he can also, if he has a clean game, he has torn defenses up. And even in that first game, like we saw, the Eagles got manhandled for most of the game. Jalen Hurts scored 2 quick touchdowns to cover that game. Like if you were on the Eagles that game, your bet covered. So we could get that scenario too. I'm not saying, like you said, I'm not saying the Bucs aren't going to win or that they can't even blow the Eagles out, but there's a lot of scenarios here where I think the Eagles stay close. And I think the Eagles are very live to actually win this game. Again, the Bucs without Mike Evans. Well, now they're going up against maybe a team that doesn't have as good a pass rush, but the Eagles are very, very good at limiting the outside wide receivers. They allowed the 4th fewest receptions to wide receivers. Darius Slay, a top 10 cornerback by PFF. Avonte Maddox, top 20. I really think this game is going to be close. I really do. I love the Eagles plus 8.5. And I think you even sprinkle them on the money line here.
Geoff Ulbrich joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Follow him on Twitter at the Fantasy Grind on Twitter. By the way, really quick, before we move on your Twitter, it says you're a Nick Foles enthusiast.
Yes.
What does a Nick Foles enthusiast entail? Because I know for me, for example, being on the air now for the last several years in this area, I can tell you that the Nick Foles versus Carson Wentz thing was a very interesting conversation for about 2 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always been a believer just in Nick Foles ever since he came into the league. Like the first stint he had with the Eagles, I just like him because he he's won me a lot of money. I'm not gonna lie, I really cleaned up that year they beat the Patriots. They had an MVP, so that's the biggest factor here. And that week he threw like 7 touchdowns against the Raiders. I mean, I cleaned up on DraftKings too, but honestly, he is a quarterback who, since he came into the league, winning records with Chip Kelly, just severely underrated, it feels like, by the league. And even in that, after that Super Bowl, I get that Carson Wentz was coming up looked really good, but to just have him discounted so many times, I don't know. I just like a guy who keeps his head up, and he's kind of an inspirational guy. So always been a big Nick Foles fan. Obviously, when a guy comes through for you for betting and many different aspects, it's always easy to like them. But I just always like following his career for sure.
Gotcha. I just want a little clarity on that because sometimes I was literally reading something today, and so it's literally said, "Is Nick Foles the best quarterback in Eagles history? And if not, who?" And I was just like, I'm back into this conversation again. But back to the football this weekend, Geoff. You mentioned the 49ers Dallas game, and one of the things that intrigues me about that game is I think that the thing that maybe because the number right now is 3. I understand that it's not a big number one with the other, but to me, the biggest thing in this game is I have zero faith in Mike McCarthy. I watched Hard Knocks, and he came off as the biggest uninspiring coach in world history. Like, that dude felt like he was really cursing just to get people excited, and the players looked like they had no juice. Kyle Shanahan is arguably one of the best coaches in the NFL. I think if we're talking about coaches, 49ers can run laps around the Cowboys staff.
When I first looked at this line, and even today, it does feel like Dallas is getting a little bit disrespected just from the line, right? I mean, you've got Dallas at home here. This is a team who's 100% healthy. They just blew out. I know the Eagles were starting like their third stringers last week, but coming off a couple huge wins. And to see them just get set at -3, you got to think, well, this team's disrespected. But, even with that small line, I mean, I tend to agree with you. Like, I do not want to bet the Cowboys this week for, again, basically what you just said. I don't want to take Mike McCarthy versus Kyle Shanahan. It's just not a spot I'm that interested in. I think that, Dallas could win this game and they could win it big. Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe not 100%. Dallas has really good pressure. And I think if Dallas does end up covering here, it's going to be because of that factor. Maybe Jimmy G just isn't 100% and their defense just comes through. But man, if Jimmy Garoppolo can stay upright, I think this game probably ends up really close. And I think it's going to be an exciting one. But, you mentioned Kyle Shanahan, San Francisco 16-9 ATS since 2019 as the away team. This has been a pretty good spot for the San Francisco Niners under Kyle Shanahan. Dallas has been a really good against the spread team here too, but I am pretty much with you on this one. The line looks suspect. It looks like Dallas isn't getting respect, but I have too much respect for Kyle Shanahan and not really any for Mike McCarthy to really want to go heavy on the Cowboys here.
Also, it should be noted that for those who are looking over at the DraftKings Sportsbook right now, the value on the Cowboys -3 is -115. The value on the 49ers of +3 is -105. So folks can read into that little detail however they want, because sometimes people love to know what the value is.
And I think also that's kind of telling you, like, you might see this line move to get bigger towards the Dallas side. Like, I think the spread could get bigger. Dallas is a pretty public team. Wouldn't shock me if this got up to 3.5 or 4.
Let's talk about the other Sunday game. Steelers Chiefs. This is a rematch. It's the biggest spread of all the games. I think the biggest question with this game is which Chiefs team shows up. Is it the Chiefs team that can blow somebody out within 3 quarters, or is it the Chiefs team that kind of loses their way for 3 quarters and wins in the 4th?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, KC has been, it seems like so long ago that Kansas City was struggling. We're like, is Kansas City even going to make the playoffs this year? Patrick Mahomes, is he just going through a bad year? Is he injured or something? And then this is what, seven wins, and all of a sudden it's like, well, you shouldn't have doubted the Chiefs, right? But that team is still, it's still there somewhere. There is a bad performance from KC somewhere. And, I think the biggest thing in this game, it's not so much that I don't trust Kansas City. I think Kansas City is still very good, and I think they figured out a lot of things. It's just that I just don't like the Pittsburgh Steelers, for as much as people hate them, and Ben Roethlisberger maybe shouldn't be in the playoffs. They're a pretty solid team. Like, this is a team with the best pressure rate in the league, and when you have that kind of defense coming at you and just being able to change games, quite frankly, with the pass rush and just the pressure they put on opposing quarterbacks, limiting big plays, it can change games in a hurry. And I mean, it's almost like people are forgetting, like everyone's saying, well, they got blown out by Kansas City a few games ago. It's also a team that beat the number 1 seed in the AFC 3 weeks ago. They've got 2 wins over Baltimore and Cleveland. I mean, these are teams that people pick to make the playoffs. So I think at the very least, you've got a team here in Pittsburgh who are, maybe not live to get the win, but definitely being disrespected at 12.5 points here. I don't like them. I don't think they have as good a chance as the Eagles to pull an upset, but at 12.5, I mean, I'm definitely on the Pittsburgh side here. And just to throw out a quick stat for you here too, in the wild card round, the underdogs have typically been the side. Underdogs over the last 5 seasons, 15-7 against the spread. Actually a 10-12 outright record too. So I'm pretty interested in the Steelers side here. I just feel like 12.5 points is too much.
Geoff Ulbrich from DraftKings joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, you can hear all the playoff action all weekend long right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Every playoff game you can hear right here on the radio. Saturday, Geoff, let's jump over to that. I am very intrigued by both of these games. The Bengals have the fantasy football superstars and Burrow and Chase on their team. And then you have the Raiders, who I still don't know how they made the postseason, honestly. I mean, they fired Gruden. Nobody knew Bisaccia's name still for half the year. I feel like only people learned his name because they made the postseason at this point. Like, I turn on the national networks and they're like, oh, I think his name is Bisaccia, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't know the guy's name. Poor guy. But the Raiders are here, and the Bengals, I think they're a trendy dark horse right now. This game is intriguing.
I get that. Like, I get why people are a little bit like, they don't want to dip their toes into the Bengals and kind of, get right on them. And I agree. Like, I feel like half the nation just like figured out the Raiders head coach last week because of the tie thing at the end of the game. But
right.
I'm pretty big on the Bengals here. I think they're going to be okay. I get why people, again, it's Joe Burrow's first playoff game. This Bengals team has a history of just making the playoffs and then just losing. But I think that also like leads into this game that this is massive for the Bengals. Like, I think they are going to be very, very up for this spot. And, people say, well, the Carson Palmer, they couldn't get it done there. They couldn't get it done with Andy Dalton. I think Joe Burrow is just a different league, just a different person, a different type of quarterback. And I think you're just witnessing the start of Joe Burrow's, playoff success here. So ultimately, the Raiders they have some pieces that they're scrappy. They got a guy in Casey Hayward who's very good in the back end, but with all those weapons that the Bengals have to cover, I just don't think it's going to be enough. And, you look at that game against the Chargers last week, they jumped out at home to a 10-0 lead. They could not get a stop on 4 4th and longs to shut that game down. Like, if they do that to the Bengals, I think this game could be over a lot sooner than people realize. So I know, like, it's, we have the recency bias of the Raiders winning, but I'm actually not that concerned about the Bengals. This game has moved from 6.5 to -5. So I think the one thing to keep an eye on is just the health of Joe Burrow. Like, everything is said, he's fine, but is somebody knows something about the knee that other people don't? I don't know. That's the only thing that really concerns me here. Otherwise, as long as this line stays under 6, I'm definitely on the Bengals.
The game I have the least feel for is Patriots-Bills. I feel like I have zero idea, Geoff, who is going to win this game, because the 2 times they played, it was completely different games. And I understand the one game was in a crazy weather situation, but still, I saw completely different teams multiple times this year. I still don't know how the Dolphins beat the Patriots. the last week. I still don't know how the Jags beat the Bills weeks ago. I don't know how these teams have won and lost games. It feels like both these teams, you can flip a coin and decide who's going to show up.
Yeah, I mean, and I think like these two teams in this game, just in particular, it speaks to like what the NFL has been this season, what the NFL is like a lot of seasons. It's a lot of up and down. It's a lot of variance. Teams look like world beaters 2 weeks in a row, and then they just, they do what the Colts did last week. They lose to the Jags, right? So Buffalo, I get that they're coming in on like a 3-game win streak or whatever, but like Josh Allen has completed 48% of his passes the last 2 games. Playing Atlanta and the Jets. It's not very confidence inspiring, is it? I mean, it's, the Bills have been getting by with like running a little bit, defense, and it just feels like, well, New England was everyone's Super Bowl pick 4 weeks ago, and now they're just kind of being written off. Right now, the Bills seem to be the heaviest bet on the board of this wild card weekend. I think that's very interesting, especially with the forecast, which does seem to be more in line with the first time these two teams met. I think that giving 4 points to Bill Belichick, who's, and the Patriots, who like I just mentioned, was looking pretty good a few weeks ago. I'm kind of with you. Like I almost want to say Buffalo is probably the better team here, but I think you at 4 points, like you've got to just take the team that's getting the points here, especially with that wild card underdog record here. I'm definitely more inclined to lean towards New England, but I am kind of with you in the same sense that this one, like these two teams have just been so up and down over the Bills the whole year, and New England especially just of late, that it's a tough one to figure. I'm going to be waiting right up until sort of kickoff, and if it is cold and windy though, I'll be very happy to take +4 with New England. I think
might be also an idea to take the under in that game as well at 44. Yes. I mean that feels like a little too much.
Very surprised at this total, to be honest. I'm glad you brought it up because this was 43 yesterday, and like I was on another show and we both agreed like the 43 seemed big, and now it's up to 44. So I'm more inclined to jump on the under here probably than even a spread bet, to be honest.
And then on Monday night, another divisional matchup, which I'm a little surprised we got this many divisional matchups, but it's all good. Cardinals, Rams. I don't know what the Cardinals are, Geoff. I really don't. I mean, they keep talking about J.J. Watt's going to return. I don't even know what that means at this point. J.J. Watt looks better in a T-shirt than he does in a uniform anymore. And the Rams, Matthew Stafford led the NFL in interceptions. Well, here in Philadelphia, we know that Carson Wentz led the league in interceptions last year, and the Eagles won 4 games. So apparently, leading the league in interceptions doesn't mean what it used to in the NFL. So what do we make of the Cardinals and the Rams, two teams that also is a bit of a coin flip situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think to go along with like the Bills and Patriots, this is one where I just don't really trust either of these teams enough to give like a huge super take to one side. I mean, people are going to bring up, well, Arizona finished 1-4, but I mean, like the Rams all year have just been up and down. I mean, they had a spot against Tennessee without Derrick Henry and AJ Brown, and they just got whooped like in that game. And, these teams both went up against each other, and one team won big one time and the other team won big the other time. I think with Arizona, the loss of DeAndre Hopkins, I think is kind of been understated by a lot of people. And I think it's really hurt Kyler Murray's efficiency. It's actually shown just in his efficiency stats too. And then with Matthew Stafford and the Rams on the other side, I mean, the loss of Robert Woods, I think is something to speak to too. This game is, to me, I just want to take the points again with that underdog record and with Kyler Murray moving the ball with his legs a little bit more. I think there's a good chance that Arizona at least keeps this close, but I think the Rams probably are the better team here. This is one where I'm not even sure. We'll get to Monday night and we'll see where the line is. This one has moved a point already. I think a lot of people were kind of taking the same stance as me. Well, Arizona getting 4.5. We'll just take the points with Arizona. It's now moved to 3.5. If this one touches 3 at all, I would probably be in on the Rams. These two teams, though, they're really close, and they have similar coaches, right? I mean, both offensive-minded coaches, really known for their play calling, not really that great at game management, though, and both of them kind of have flaws. So I think that the Rams come in with less question marks, just because DeAndre Hopkins on the Arizona side, some really kind of bad defensive play on the Arizona side. But this is a game where if the point spread gets too big, I would just take the points.
All right, Geoff, before I let you go, of all the participants in the Super Wild Card weekend, Saturday through Monday, will the Super Bowl participants come from that group, or do you expect the Packers or Titans to be one of the Super Bowl participants?
Okay, well, I mean, this is good. This is my preseason prediction was Titans versus Packers in the Super Bowl.
Oh, really?
So it's really easy for me. Yeah, and I've been telling people to bet the Titans AFC conference. There's even back midseason. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to say no. I think that the Titans with Derrick Henry coming back are in a very good spot. They've got wins over all the teams in the AFC. They're a bit of a streaky team themselves, but their defense has really been playing better. And I think it's been a bit of an underrated story. And, I just think the Packers are quality. And I think Aaron Rodgers is just out to prove something this year. And I think that he will probably get it done, at least getting to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Titans Packers. Let's stick with my preseason pick.
All right, there you go. That's Geoff Ulbrich. You can follow him on Twitter at the Fantasy Grind on Twitter. Of course, he does all that work with DraftKings, DK Live, and more. Also, he covers the PGA as well, not just the NFL. So check him out for all that golf stuff as well. I call it golf stuff because I'm very willing to admit, Geoff, that golf is not my expertise.
Hey, I mean, look, golf is a great sport to bet in the NFL offseason. If you're looking for something, you can always head over to my page or gknation.com and check out the golf stuff. It's a fun sport once you get into it. But yeah.
Well, maybe when we get around to the Masters, we could have you on for that as well. Try to chat that up.
Yeah,
because listen, anyone who listens to me knows when it comes to the non-team sports, my realm is MMA. It's not golf. So, MMA is like my individual sport realm. When it comes to the golf, I lean to experts like you and ask you guys what we should do.
I'm more than happy to come on for the Masters if you need me. Absolutely.
Geoff, I always appreciate you jumping on. Great stuff today. We'll have you on again soon.
Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, which is free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City, and we are live on YouTube at 973 ESPN. I see messages coming in on the YouTube channel as well as on the text board at 609-403-0973. So Jay and Dan and all the rest of you guys will get to your messages on the other side right here with me, Josh Hennig, on Game Night.
Tonight on Compass Media Network's coverage of college basketball, it's a top 15 showdown in the SEC as Auburn takes on Alabama. Blue chipper Jabari Smith and the Tigers try to slay Jaden Shackelford and the rival Crimson Tide. Auburn, Alabama, live from Tuscaloosa. If it's college basketball, it's right here.
The college basketball season continues only on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 9 p.m.
EMT Solar and Roofing and Solar Guardians. Start your solar journey today by visiting espnsolar.com.
Hi, I'm Larry Mintz. When dealing with a workers' compensation claim, in most cases, the injured worker doesn't get the money they're entitled to. That's why you need the right lawyer. When injured on the job, call us first. We'll speak with you for free and get you all the money and benefits you deserve.
Make the right call to Goldenberg Mackler. Call us at 609-344-7131. That's 609-344-7131. Or visit us online at gmslaw.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by Bally's Atlantic City's FanDuel Sportsbook. The retail sportsbook right off the boardwalk in Atlantic City features 5 betting windows, a large video wall, a sports ticker, 20 self-service betting kiosks, and various lounge seats. The NFL playoffs are right around the corner, and you can catch all the action at the FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Get to some of your guys' comments here. We got comments coming in on the YouTube channel as well as the text board at 609-403-0973. Over on the text board, Dan and EHT chimes in and says, Josh, do you think the Eagles have a chance of winning, or is it unrealistic? I don't think it's unrealistic because I think there's more parity in the NFL right now than there's been in a long time. Really, the only team in the postseason that I would be surprised if they won this coming weekend is if the Steelers beat the Chiefs. I would be shocked. Any other outcome, I wouldn't be shocked. Maybe I may be mildly surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked. I think the Eagles have a formula to beat the Patriots, which is run the ball, play keep away from Tom Brady. If you win the time of possession battle, you have a chance to win. To me, that's the way they can win, and it's what they do very well. Now, I'm not going to say it's unrealistic. Do I expect them to win? As of now, no. It's Tuesday, January 11th. I still can't bet against the GOAT Tom Brady. But for me to say it's unrealistic, I think would be intellectually dishonest. Another texter chimes in and says, well, the Steelers do have an elite pass rush, but I do understand your point about the Eagles. Listen, let me ask you a question. And I'm not trying to belittle the Steelers because I think the Steelers have a lot of talent, but I just don't think it came together very well this year. I think the Steelers are a team that's a year away from being that kind of team. Do the Steelers have an elite pass rush, or do the Steelers have an elite pass rusher? To me, if TJ Watt isn't on that team, what happens to their pass rush? That's my problem with the Steelers defensively. I think they still have flaws on the defense. I think that good offenses can take advantage of their secondary. I think that guys like Joe Hayden and others are just not at the same level they used to be. I love Minkah Fitzpatrick. I love him as a talent and as a all-around defensive weapon, but I just don't think the Steelers are the best version of themselves this year. I just don't think it's their year. Over on the YouTube channel, Jay chimes in, says, someone tell Jonathan Gannon he needs to apply pressure on Brady or he's going to pick us apart. I'm anticipating Gannon play calling like a scared little, and I'll leave out the last word. Yeah, listen, the problem with Gannon is that I don't think he's scared. I think Gannon is an overthinker. And as the foremost expert on overthinking when it comes to a lot of things, I can tell you that I know one when I see one. Gannon calls these passive defensive zones, these zones where guys are backpedaling constantly. They're trying to do this thing. They're trying to make guys dink and dunk in front, trying to keep guys in front of them, trying to prevent the being beaten over the top. And that's why they don't bring enough pressure when it comes to the blitz. The way to apply pressure on Brady is up the middle, not on the edges. The problem for the Eagles is that there are times that they lean very heavily on Sweat and Barnett applying pressure on the edge to open things in the middle for Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. And I think that's the wrong way to go against Brady. I think you need to take Gerard Avery, put him in the middle, have him go against the center, put Fletcher and Javon on the other team's guards, and try to let things go havoc. I think you can put a 5-on-5 situation. It makes the Bucs work harder as an offensive line. Geoff chimes in on the YouTube channel and says, I believe in the Birds. We could beat Brady we had before. I'm just saying, well, that was a different team. Okay, that was with Brandon Graham. There's no Brandon Graham this time around. That was with Chris Long. That was with LeGarrette Blount. That was with guys who knew the Patriot way. This ain't the Patriots. This is the Bucs. Now, I don't disagree with you that they can beat them. I'm not in a situation right now where I'm willing to sign, steal, and deliver that. But like Geoff Ulbrich said, the underdogs are doing a lot of winning right now. The Eagles are 8.5. I can see the Patriots winning, the Bucs winning by 7 in this game. Frank chimes in, says the Eagles defense isn't going to be able to hang. Again, it depends on the offense, Frank. If the Eagles offense can play keep away from the Patriots, the Bucs. I keep saying the Patriots. Good grief, Josh. If they play keep away from the Bucs, Brady has less opportunities on offense to let the Eagles defense hang the drive. The only way to beat a Tom Brady team is to win the time of possession battle. The teams that do that typically are in a position to win. That's the key. Great stuff for everyone chiming in. I love when you guys join the conversation. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. I'll catch you tomorrow.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Bible with the alley-oop jam. He snuck behind the knee and Bible off the mini trap down low.
The Sixers host the Charlotte Hornets. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.